I don't know. I feel like a lot of people who need to really boast and have big egos and act like they're hot shit are actually really insecure. So the best thing you could actually do to kind of stick it to those people that you're quote unquote not as good as is just to be confident in yourself.
Salutations, friends. I'm glad to have you here with me again for another episode of Subversion, where I sit down and have a conversation with an artist and or musician. That artist today goes by 2JD, and he's part of the Nice Guy crew out of none other than the Twin Cities. They're a collective of rap and hip-hop artists who will be featured on this podcast, so keep an eye out for the rest of them. So yeah, what can I say? I know nice guys. So let me introduce you to 2JD, and as always, stick around until the very end so I can give you my goodbyes and blessings for the week.
I am 2JD. I'm a local hip-hop artist in the Twin Cities. I've come from a varied musical background. I've been in a couple different bands. Been in a heavy metal band, played bass in a funk alternative band, do a lot of singing. Now I'm just doing hip-hop, but I'm really just a lyricist, songwriter. Hip-hop just kind of happens to be the genre I'm in right now. So.
Right on. How did you end up coming up with the name 2JD?
It's actually my initials, JJD,
right.
Jared James Downs. Which like I kind of came up with that on the fly. You know, like, oh man, I need a rap name, and I came with 2JD, and it just kind of stuck.
Right.
Like I thought of changing it a few times, but it's short and easy, and
right.
so I just stuck with it.
I think it flows off the tongue pretty well.
Exactly.
So you were telling me that you kind of grew up in a rural part of Minnesota, just outside of the Twin Cities, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Wright County. I grew up in Buffalo, which is the Wright County seat. And not even really like I'm in Buffalo, but it's kind of between Buffalo and Rockford. So it's like you take the highway out of Buffalo, and then you go down this gravel road to this woodsy neighborhood, and that's where my parents lived, and that's where I grew up.
Right. Yeah, I kind of grew up in the rural Midwest in North Iowa, so have kind of a bit of a shared experience there. I'm sure it was easier for you to kind of get into the city, though, than it was for me, as far as like going to, do fun things in downtown.
Yeah, because I had friends who had family in the cities, so I would go visit them out in the cities now and then. Actually, I had one of my good friends from high school. His dad lived in Minneapolis, so every weekend he'd be at his dad's. So sometimes I would go out there, and we'd go to a lot of concerts. But back then it was all like heavy metal shows and rock and roll shows. So
that's kind of what I grew up on too.
Yeah, I wasn't too familiar with the cities when I initially moved out, but I did know some of the venues and things like that. Because I've been to First Avenue and Caboose and all that, and some that are closed now, like Quest Club.
Right. I remember going to the Quest.
Club, yeah.
I went and saw a band called Fear Before the March of Flames. Okay. Did you ever know who they were?
No.
Okay. Well, they were playing in the Ascot room upstairs. Okay. Did you ever go there?
No, but I know of the Ascot.
Sure. Well, Gwar was playing downstairs, and we were at the show upstairs, and the other bands were Fall of Troy, I think, was there too.
Okay, yeah, I know.
And Bear versus Shark, and it was a really fun time. But in between every set, all you'd hear is Gwar doing their Gwar thing downstairs.
Gwar.
I've seen them a couple times too.
Me too.
At Sounds of the Underground, I would always see them. I never went out of my way to see them, but they were always at Sounds of the Underground.
Yeah, I went. I saw them a few times in Minneapolis, and I saw them on at Bonnaroo as well. Actually,
oh,
it was funny. It was
weird.
It was like 2 or so in the morning.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend at the time, we'd walked all the way back to our campsite, and was like, "Oh man, should we just turn in for the night? I mean, I'm not really gonna." We think about just going to sleep, and then I looked on the schedule. I'm like, oh, Gwar plays at 3 a.m. We got to go back. And we just,
at 3 a.m.?
Yeah. We marched all the way back and went to Gwar. At 3 in the morning.
That seems like a decision you would make at 3 in the morning.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, why not? Right?
Right.
Just day drinking at Bonnaroo. I mean,
yeah.
It's almost 3. You're awake anyway.
Sure.
It's like, Gwar, let's go see it.
So with going to school in such a rural part, did you have issues Like, I know that creative personalities in rural areas, they're not exactly, they're not given an environment to foster and learn and grow creatively. What was your experience with that?
My experience with that is, I guess artists always seem to be sort of what's the word I'm looking for? I guess sort of the more the quiet, kind of weird kids. You know what I mean? If you want to call them that, but I mean in comparison to just, the cardboard cutout, like these are the people going to school. Then you had your like goths and your punks and even your hip hop kids. There was all kind of this niche of like, these are the music people. These are the people that like to write. These are the people that like, playing guitar and all those sort of things. They always seem to gravitate into each other. So that's kind of the circle I fell into, especially because I was heavy metal head at the time. So I hung out with a lot of the, just kids that were in bands, just fucking jamming out in their garage and stuff, or just writing. That was the thing too, is I wasn't ever really vocal as a young kid. And I started writing fiction at about the age of 10. So, I don't know, I guess since I wasn't very outgoing for many years, I always had a lot going around in my head. So as an outlet for that, I used writing. So I'd write, like I said, fiction and short stories, and that turned into lyrics as I got into music, especially because those are so quick. When you're writing a story, it's like, okay, I got to sit down. It's like 10 pages. Whereas with lyrics, like it might just be a couple lines, but that's still something. Right. Like, oh, I thought of these 2 rhymes and I'm going to write these 4, and sometimes it could just stay at that, and you don't feel bad about it. Whereas with a story, it's like, oh, I'm doing all this description and establishing the character and it teeters off and it's nothing. Whereas if you write a really good lyric to a song, you don't feel bad about not having it in a song right away. It's just like, oh, that's good. I'm going to keep this. Maybe I'll expand on it later. Put something here. So I don't know.
So what inspired you to start writing stories when you were a kid?
What inspired me to start writing stories? Probably just reading.
Okay, sure.
I did a lot of reading.
Any particular authors that you remember?
I liked, when I was really young, I liked like Roald Dahl. Like really like magical, kind of whimsical stuff, So anything that was just kind of like far removed. And even as a kid watching stuff, I really liked anything to do with fantasy and you know what I mean? I wasn't very much of a realistic drama type person. You know what I mean? Okay. Like as a kid, if I was watching a movie, it's like, all right, when we get into like the wizards and monsters and stuff. So that's the kind of stuff I would read. What else did I read as a kid? I read Goosebumps.
Oh, hell yeah. So. I remember when they started coming out with the Goosebumps books where you could choose the path that the character takes.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I would read a lot of Choose Your Own Adventure.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to me.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I've never thought of that, but maybe that has, maybe my writing has some of its origin in that too, as far as fiction goes. Because I like the idea of like, oh, I decide where the story goes,
Sure.
And, yeah, that was me. I was so quiet, so my head was always in the clouds. Just, I was always thinking of, like just different ideas for different things, like movies and video games and books. And so any opportunity to just kind of utilize that, you know what I mean? Because it's all this wasted mental energy where it's like, wow, I sat here for like an hour thinking up something in my head that just isn't used. So the moment I could start jotting things down and writing things down, it's good. And even now, I'll just post like memos in my phone. Like I'll just think of not even a lyric, just like an idea, like something like, oh, that's interesting. Like, And it's weird. I dumped my old phone onto the cloud back when I had an iPhone, and I was looking through some of those things, and there's just really obscure things like what? Like just stuff like I'll just find like a one-line note, something like, oh, aliens show up and turn Earth into a giant sweatshop or something. And I'll be like, what? Like, why did I write this?
No context whatsoever.
No context, yeah. Stuff like that, or just like singular lyrics. I don't know. So I guess I'm just an idea guy.
Yeah.
And I don't like chaining it down to anything, And those have been some of my more favorite books too, are ones that aren't totally embedded in fantasy or realism, you know what I mean? Because with a lot of fantasy, it's like sometimes it's almost too distant.
Yeah,
where it's like I would never meet this person. But then you have these stories, where it's like these are very real people and they get put into these fantastic situations that would never happen, but at least you believe them as a person, so you can believe it more, if that makes any sense. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think I do. And I really appreciate sci-fi that they can take this obscure idea and setting and make it a parable about something that's happening in current events or something like that.
Exactly.
Like Ender's Game. That's a really good one. I think I've talked about this before in an interview where there was an era of sci-fi where it was like post-Cold War era when we sort of started to muse about, well, shit, we have all these weapons that can destroy so much more than we it's like a weapon that we don't even grasp the full ramifications of.
Yeah.
And sci-fi definitely reflected that, and it still kind of does.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Mass Effect.
Yep. I love Mass Effect.
That game series definitely plays off of that old sci-fi sort of archetype.
Yeah, and especially with science fiction, it really reflects, like, I feel like current social issues and things like that. Even though it's supposed to be the future, it's very much grounded in the present always. And even the big fear used to be like nukes, especially during the Cold War and all that. And you notice a lot of sci from the 50s and 60s has to do with like nuclear radiation or mutations or like nuclear apocalypse and things like that. And now you get really into like, I would say more like cyber warfare and like hacking, and it's all computers now. If you notice that, and that's what it is right now. We're seeing these huge jumps in like computers. I mean, the first computers made, like, they took up an entire room. You know what I mean? Like, they were giant, and now I have something that dwarfs that power, like sitting in my pocket. You know?
Right.
So I mean, that whole thing, that's really taken over. I feel like in a lot of more modern stuff, especially in like pop culture. A good example of that is like the Terminator series.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that.
That was all nuclear apocalypse, and now suddenly it, at least the last film was like, now it's cyber warfare. Like, we're gonna take over using cyber technology
and the Terminator series. That storyline is kind of overlapping with AI too.
Yeah,
where that's sort of the new hysteria about technology is can we really handle AI if we actually build true AI that has its own sentience and everything?
And that was always kind of prevalent. Like, there's definitely a lot of classic AI stories from like decades ago, but I feel like it's really resurfacing a lot given that it's becoming such a reality. I mean, with a big show on HBO right now is Westworld. I don't know if you've watched or heard of that.
I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
I really dig that.
Okay.
That's basically like it's basically like they're building synthetic people from the ground up. So they're androids, but I don't know if you've seen Battlestar Galactica.
My girlfriend watched it, but no, I never got into it.
Okay, well, there's these creatures or creations and that called Cylons, which are basically, it's like, they're exactly like a human. They bleed and they sweat and everything. But they're synthetic down to like the tiniest detail, and that's kind of what Westworld is. Except they've all been programmed to like take on these different roles and scripts, and it'd be like if Red Dead Redemption were a real life game where you could just stroll into this western town and do whatever you want. Which of course has all these ramifications because it's mostly rich assholes going there. So they're doing things like killing and raping and pillaging, and these synthetic people begin to remember. And it's like, it used to be they would wipe them out, but they start remembering all these things that have been done to them. And it's kind of like about them gaining sentience. But I don't know. I'm getting off track here. Now we're talking about...
that's fine. I totally intended to talk about fiction.
I'm paid by HBO. They got me to just hype up their new show, Westworld. Everyone go watch it right away.
It's funny you should bring up video games, though, because that's what I was kind of thinking when we were talking about the choose your own story in Goosebumps is... Like, I think that's why I liked when video games started to get more into the RPG, away from more open world games and away from the linear storyline model.
Absolutely, I agree. And
like Skyrim was excellent. I never played Oblivion, but I actually went through and played Oblivion again after I played Skyrim because I like Skyrim so much. I liked Oblivion more than Skyrim
I agree.
myself.
Oblivion, Skyrim's more like... it's a better world. Like the graphics are better, and you have better abilities and all this stuff. But Oblivion, I feel like the storytelling was a little more solid. There was more depth to it.
Yeah.
Like, you join a guild and it's like there's this entire story here. Like, an example, like you join the Mages Guild, you have to go around doing all these odd job tasks, and it feels like you work your way up. Where Skyrim was very streamlined, like, oh, you showed up and you're a rook and no one respects you, and the next day you're like archmage, and
Yeah, the dialogue doesn't add up
it
with
doesn't.
the storyline.
I feel like
as
they
much.
really skimped on those guild quests, man. But I mean, the game is still sweet. Don't get me wrong. Like,
Yeah.
Skyrim's amazing.
Yeah, no, I played like 3 characters on it, so I mean, I certainly still liked it. But
Yeah, but even better than those, I really just look for storytelling, I feel like. And which is weird because, video games used to be such a novel thing, like, oh, it's kid stuff, and like there's no story really. I mean, yeah, you'd have your little text blobs on screen, if the old 16-bit or whatever, but now it's very much like you go into a game expecting it to be like a blockbuster film. Like, oh man, this better have a great story,
Yeah.
this better have good voice acting, and they put millions of dollars, what I mean, towards these huge games now.
absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why I liked Mass Effect so much, because for me,
Yeah, they really went out
that's
all out with
literally
it.
like, it's like I was watching one of the best sci-fi movies I'd seen in years, but I got to decide what the protagonist does.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
like that really carried it. I mean, because if the writing hadn't been good, then it wouldn't have been a good game.
Right.
And whereas, like way back when video games started, that didn't matter. You didn't need a story to hold a game. But now it can have great graphics, great, be lots of fun. But if the story sucks, people are like, man, that game sucked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas that didn't used to be a thing. You wouldn't be like, man, Double Dragon sucks. Like, there's no plot depth at all. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you wouldn't do that.
Yeah. As far as the storyline in Oblivion, though, do you remember Sean Bean is the voice actor for the for Talos? I'm pretty sure.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, and spoiler alert, because Sean Bean is in it,
Yeah.
he ends up dying. in the
Yep,
end.
yep. That makes sense.
That's pretty much a spoiler. If you know Sean Bean's in it, you know
Yeah.
that his character's gonna die. I just recently rewatched Goldeneye, and he's in that too.
Really?
Yeah, he dies within the first like 20 minutes or something. Or
man.
I actually he doesn't die. They think he dies, and then he comes back in the end. as
But
a villain.
yeah, close enough. You know what I
But,
mean?
yeah.
You had a death scene,
Right.
even if it turned out to be like a hoax.
Right.
Not true.
Man, all this talk about video games just makes me want to like spend more time playing video games, but I'm just always so busy with
Yeah.
everything that I never have time anymore. Is somebody trying to?
I think they were shushing us for being a little loud.
Oh, oops.
We were just talking really loud.
Oh well.
Oh well.
Yeah, we're in a give right now to
is
give
a lot.
listeners context.
I just immediately pictured all that. Like, this is a library. Be quiet.
Right. So yeah, man, you played in a metal band you were talking about?
Yeah.
Back in high school?
Yeah, that's how I started. Because I was really into that. Oh, yeah, and going back to the books things, like when I was young, I read stuff like that. But the first authors I really got into were like Michael Crichton and Stephen King. And I was huge into Stephen King for high school, middle school and high school, I would say. So I was really into like horror, I guess. Like things that were kind of taboo, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. That always interested me more, like bands that were like, I don't know, like Cradle Filth, Dimmu Borgir and stuff. They're
yeah.
more like goth rock horror type bands.
Yeah.
Not to say goth rock, because they're not gonna get all these metal elitists like they're not goth rock. They're progressive.
I guess I'm not
black metal or whatever.
I'm not as keen on a lot of the subgenres of metal as much.
It's all the same at one point. At a certain point, you know
Yeah,
what
it
I
all
mean?
comes from the same place, right?
Yeah, right. You're like, this isn't doom metal. This is, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just post grindcore sludge or something. Like, what are you talking about?
I saw Dimmu Borgir once, and I was a little disappointed actually.
Really?
They were lip syncing.
What?
Yeah, they
Were
were
they?
backtracking, and it pissed me off.
Oh man, really?
Yeah.
See, I saw him like 4 times and I never noticed.
Really?
Really? That's a bummer, man.
Yeah, and I don't know
Breaking
if it
my
was
heart
just
here.
I don't know if it was just the show that I saw though. But you could tell the lyrics were backtracked and everything.
Okay.
I guess I shouldn't be so critical on that because performing is a really I would imagine I don't
Nah,
know
man,
what it's like to
because
perform music like
I don't like when people backtrack, it just kind of gets to me, especially with hip hop, man.
Yeah.
Since like we're talking,
Oh yeah.
since it's gonna ultimately gravitate toward hip hop, that's the worst.
Yeah.
When I see like, you know what I mean, and I kind of get it if you're a huge artist, like okay, you've been doing hundreds of shows, you know what I mean, like going all over, like, and you're gonna have a backtrack going, whatever, like this is what I expected.
Yeah.
But then when I see like underground artists, like I've never heard you, and they go up and they just like play their whole song, you know, like not even their beat, like I'm just gonna play the song on my phone, like with vocals included, and they'll literally like not even rap the whole thing or not even the whole, yeah, like they're sitting
That's
up there.
a thing?
Yeah, I've encountered that, man, and it's, you know, and you can tell that they just don't even, it's like I don't even know if you know your whole song because you're just, you know what I mean, like I'm gonna sit here, nod my head in silence, and then do the last half of the line, and it's like, what? Like,
That's really weird.
it is. It's shitty, is what it is. It's bad. Like, it's like, come on, man. You know what I mean? And it's not even like, because I mean, I've been in bands where I have to play bass and sing, and that's really that gets really like tedious, and you have to focus so much, you know. But then with rapping, it's like, man, you just gotta rap. You know, like
Right.
your one job is to remember the lyrics and do them, you know, and say them.
Right.
So like whenever I see someone who's half performing the song where all you gotta do is walk around and rap anyway, like it just it gets to me because it's like, come on, man, like, and I mean, I get it. There's cons to it because like I'll be jumping around rapping and I'll run out of breath, and there might be a couple lines where I sound sloppy or out of breath, you know, but at least it's real.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather give a subpar performance than, you know, be up there with just my own voice playing behind me, and then like I'm not, you know, it's like they're playing hype man. It's like, oh, let's play karaoke, you know, but and instead of karaokeing the whole song, you're just gonna be a hype man, you know, like you're just gonna do a couple lines here and there.
Yeah.
You know,
I know people are really critical of DJs for that too. Like,
Yeah.
like they don't even rap, but they'll just like hit play, and you can totally tell. I mean, if you watch like Bass Nectar, for example, he actually will do, like, you can see him playing his drum machine and everything like that, but a majority of his tracks are kind of like, but you got to imagine. I mean, I don't produce music, so I wouldn't know what it's like to produce electronic music.
Yeah.
But I know there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's probably only so much that you can actually perform while you're doing it. But then when it comes to like actually rapping, you know, you go to a show to like see a performance. You don't go there to sit with the artist on stage playing their music. That's really fucked up.
I agree, man, and that bums me out when it's like, oh, you know, this really hyped up rapper or something, and they're so popular. It's like, all right, let's see what they got, and you go to the show, and then it's like, oh, you're only gonna rap like 40% of your set. You know, it's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like people are paying to come see this. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know, it's just frustrating. So, you know, a lot of people don't care.
Right.
Because you hear that a lot with mainstream rap, where it's like, I'm like, oh man, why do you like this song? And they're like, I just like the beat. Like, I don't even know what the hell any of the lyrics are. And it's like, oh,
there's plenty of probably better producers of beats out there that, you know, get a lot more out of, that don't even try to do any kind of mumbling rap over the top of it.
Yeah, that's right. That's the new thing, isn't it? Mumble rap. That's what they call it now.
Yeah.
So
So you started playing metal a little bit when...
Yeah, I started screaming in a band because I wrote all these lyrics, and like I said, I was into a lot of like death and black metal type stuff, Emperor and all that. But I primarily, I was really into Stephen King and horror and stuff, and like I said, with Cradle of Filth, at least their early works, I haven't listened to them in a long time. I don't know what their new stuff is like, but it was very intricate lyrics, to the point where, like, I think he had a song he even wrote in like iambic pentameter or whatever. I bet I'm slaughtering that. It's the Shakespearean rhythm of writing. Yeah, but he, like, the vocabulary was so vast, and me, like, I was always a reader and a bookworm kind of, so I was like, oh wow, like there's so much merit to this. But then you listen to it, you can't tell what the fuck he's saying at all, you know?
Right.
So that's kind of what I was really into the lyrics, you know, and that same thing ended up happening to me, where like we'd have a song and we'd have it for months and months and months, and then I'd go over the lyrics or something. Oh, when I get to this part, and then be like, oh man, these are the lyrics. These are really good. And then my drummer would be like, I had no idea what you're saying the whole the whole time.
That is the shame of metal music at times.
And it is, and that's why I eventually gravitated more towards clean initially, because I'm like, man, I put so much work into these lyrics. Like, I want people to understand what I'm saying. Like, so.
In a controlled situation, like when it's like professionally recorded, you can sometimes make out, depending on the vocal style of any given metal artist.
Yeah.
But if it's live, you usually can't make out.
And I feel like you get an ear for it, because like it got to the point where like
certainly.
I could listen to that kind of music and I could pick up like a lot of what they were saying.
Absolutely.
Depending if it's not too guttural. That's the only time you have no idea what's like.
Yeah, getting into
what
pig squeals.
What's going on? Yeah. It's like squeal belch, squeal gurgle. Yeah, like
there was this
probably talking about punting babies or something.
There was this this band that used a lot of pig squeals, and I remember there was like a satirical video out there on YouTube that did like subtitles basically of the song, and it was like it sounded like he was saying wheat, and then like.
I remember that. It was brie and shredded wheat. And
shredded and
what?
wheat.
What band was that again? I remember it because their demo or
probably
whatever.
like Pig Destroyer. Or something.
No, their demo was like huge, and they had these like 3 songs, and then they just disappeared off the face of the earth. I feel like I can't remember what their name was.
Yeah,
they had that
I don't
song,
remember.
Blood Spattered Satisfaction or something. That was a messed up video, man.
So you only ever ended up doing lyrics with metal? Did you ever play bass with them? Because I know you were talking about you used to play bass, right?
Yeah. Well, and I still do play a little bit. I messed around with playing it, but I never really had the I guess you would say technical ability to do metal, because a lot of it is like, all right, you're gonna strum this note rapid fire with 3 fingers, and you gotta not be off beat, and you gotta do it for like however long, And it got to the point where like, okay, I'm playing this note the whole time, but then you get into the studio and it's like, yeah, you're kind of stumbling on a couple of those notes on the 20th measure. It's like, oh my god, like I can't do this. Right. It's too. And I just feel like whenever I would play an instrument while I was trying to do vocals, it's like half my effort went into the instrument, and it got to the point where I was writing songs that I knew I could perform while I played bass.
Sure.
And I would rather just put 100% into writing and be like, I don't have to worry about expending my energy on something else. You know what I mean?
Because you were compromising.
Yeah, because I would definitely write something and I'm like, that's getting really tricky. Like, I'm not gonna be able to play bass over that,
Right.
Because my fingers would end up following the rhythm of my voice, or vice versa. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
I think when I first tried to play music and sing while playing guitar, I would always try to sing to the root note and the rhythm, and I could just never get over that. Probably a big part of that was just me not wanting to actually formally train myself in music. But I would imagine that's hard for anybody.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's it too. Like I was never classically trained in music or anything that. I would very much like to be. And as bad as it sounds, I just don't have the patience for it. Really.
I understand.
I was all about writing my own songs, getting my own, stuff out there. I never was one for really covering songs. Like that's the thing. It's like I could play all this stuff on bass, and I had people who thought it was good. And like, yeah, you're really good at bass. But then it'd be like, what songs can you play? And it's like, I got like 3 songs I can play or so.
Yeah.
It'd be like, well, I can play like one Primus song and like a couple 9 Inch Nails songs or something, and that'd be like it. Otherwise, it's all my own stuff, just because my head goes so much. Like I always have so many things I want to do that it's just kind of like I just want outlet. I just want to write, that kind of thing. So I mean, and don't get me wrong, like I think practicing covers and like being classically trained and all that helps you immensely, and would probably help me immensely too. It's just it's getting into that habit, because then it's like habitual. It's like, all right, now you have to repeat this every day, you know, like you keep playing the same thing. Whereas I was more about just like jamming around and doing things. And I mean, I would practice technique. It's not like I would never practice. Like I would write my own songs and I would practice the shit out of those, you know, but yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. Don't practice, kids. Just do your own thing.
Good message for the kids.
No, definitely practice. Definitely do covers.
Yeah.
But everyone's got their own way of doing things, I guess. You know what I mean? Some people have a very analytical, technical, you know, theoretical way to think about it, and then people are more, there's people who float around as well, and they could probably both learn from each other a lot. You know, like I could learn a lot about just classical elements, you know what I mean? What am I actually making? You know, like for me it's like I can think of a sound and I can try to emulate it with whatever I'm doing, whether it be a computer or a bass or my voice, but I don't know actually what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? Where someone else could listen to it and be like, oh, now you're dropping into this key and now you're doing, you know, X, Y, and Z. And then I talk to those people as well, and they might be incredibly classically talented, but then they can't write a song to like save their life, you know? So it's like I can play the most extravagant song, but I can't write a song. Whereas me, it's like I can write a song like it's nothing. I mean, and that's not to brag. I'm not saying like it would be good, but if you know, like threw me a sheet of paper and like, you have 10 minutes, write a song. It's like I could have something there, you know, like I could do something. It wouldn't necessarily be the best song because I'm only taking 10 minutes to do it, but that always came really naturally to me, and that's kind of how rapping kind of started, because I would write lyrics on the fly so much that it just became a habit of like, oh, I can just improv song lyrics, you know, which in essence is, you know, rapping.
Right.
But I didn't really think of it that way at first, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But eventually it got to that point where it's just something I did for fun for so many years, kind of on the side. I actually pursue it just through kind of like happenstance, actually. I mean, I was pursuing it a little bit on my own, but then I met Brandon, who was my coworker at the time, you know, and I just showed him some basement recordings, and he really dug it and was like, I'm starting up a hip-hop label, you know, you want to get in on this? I'm like, sure, you know. And I hadn't lived in the cities all that long, but that's kind of how that got started.
Okay.
And
cool.
I mean, if you'd asked me when I was a teenager, you know, which genre I'd end up pursuing, I definitely wouldn't have thought I'd be a rapper. I felt like, oh man, I'm gonna be screaming in a band or singing in a band, playing guitar and stuff. And but going back to what I said earlier too, I don't want to like chain myself to one genre. I don't want to now be like, oh, Jared's a rapper now, you know, because I still very much like to sing. And I very much like a lot of genres of music, you know. So
I suppose that's the value in having a stage name specific to whatever you're performing, I suppose.
Yeah.
So you can sort of separate yourself on whatever next project you undertake.
And that's I've often wondered about that too, because it's like 2JD to me is like it's already been established as hip hop. So it's like I want to very much branch out with my next album, and it's like there's always this part of me, it's like, oh, but this is your hip-hop thing, man. You got to do hip-hop. But it's like, I don't want to have to make a brand new project for every single thing I do. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I want to do a rock song, and, like, screw it. It could be with 2JD. Like, why not?
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, so I don't want to ever have to be like, oh, I wrote this great song, but it's, you know, it's a little too, like, you know, electronic, or it's a little too pop, or it's a little too blues rock, you know. So it can't be this, you know. I don't ever want to fall into that.
I think people do appreciate too when one artist can traverse many different genres, like Buckethead. That dude's all over the map and still stays under the same stage name and same persona and everything. I suppose.
Yeah, or like Gorillaz, you know.
Yeah,
where it's very much it's like that's all over the place. If I would honestly say if there's anything I'd most want to emulate, it might be something like that, like Gorillaz or Nine Inch Nails, where it's very much you go into it like, okay, there are all these songs and pieces of different aspects, you know, and we're just going to approach it kind of track to track, you know. So, those would both be things I'd want to emulate, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Trent Reznor to me is he's an amazing producer. The stuff he does is just crazy. To where
yeah, he's amazingly talented.
Yeah.
Some of the older stuff though, when he was really bad into heroin, you could tell that there was something there that could have been so much better if he would have just been off the junk.
Oh yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I really like the Downward Spiral era, which is when that was. I really love that album.
Oh, and that album was better produced and everything than even like further back is what I'm thinking, where they would use like lawnmowers as backing, like background noise to kind of be filler, like Pretty Hate Machine and stuff like that.
Pretty Hate Machine was great. That's a good album too. But no, I definitely agree. He's I think the thing is people liked his raw musical energy, like his stage presence stuff. Like he is very raw, like emotionally and lyrically, and I think people just liked that about him. Whereas he's kind of mellowed out now, which is why you get these people who hate on the new stuff. But production wise, he's only gotten better with each album for sure.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like that. Like there's no way you could say, you know, like, oh, Pretty Hate Machine is a better production feat than like The Fragile. It's like absolutely not. There's no way. No. You know what I mean? You know, and you might like it better because it's more raw, but
the nostalgia too. Mm-hmm. Like whenever I hear that, it reminds me of being young and angsty.
Well, I like how connected he kind of was to his fan base. Like I remember when Year Zero came out, all the stems for all the tracks were out, and there was just a whole website where you could just go listen to people's remixes. It was like, here you go, cool. Just go remix my stuff, and like
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got started using Ableton, because that's what I primarily use for all my production. That was one of the formats it came in was Ableton, so I got it with this trial. Or did I already have the trial? I don't know. Anyway, I was just starting to use Ableton. That was one of the first things I did. It's like you just had all these stems of his that he had separated into clips, and you could just arrange them and remix in Ableton, and I really liked the format a lot. I'm like,
so Ableton is just a DAW, then you're saying, or?
What I don't know what you mean.
A DAW is audio software.
Yeah. So, but I mostly use Ableton for just like beat mapping and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, like I don't do any of my own recording. All my recording has been done by people who know what they're doing. Like I'll go to most of it's been done at IPR, actually, Minneapolis Institute of Production and Recording.
Oh, okay.
That's where I've had most of it done, because that's where Brandon's going. And so when I started getting involved with Nice Entertainment, which I guess I should have let off with that, huh? I'm on Nice Entertainment. That's the label I'm on, everybody.
Yeah, I'll plug it when I get to the show notes and everything.
But no, I lost track of what I was saying. What was I talking about?
Recording.
Recording. Yeah.
Using Ableton.
At IPR, yeah. So all the beat mapping and stuff like that and production, like I would do that, but then I would go to people who specifically knew about recording and specifically knew about mixing, which actually most of that's done by my buddy Aaron DeGrotto, aka Daydreamer. He's phenomenal with sound. He'll take something that sounds amazing, and you're like, this is awesome, it could not sound any better, and it'll sound leaps and bounds better, where you're like, wow, I didn't even think it could sound this good, just as far as fleshing it out. So for my first 2JD album, Gemini Cities, that's what we did. I produced maybe about half the beats, or a handful of them, and then Brandon had a few beats. My buddy Benjamin K made a beat, and then my buddy Adam made a beat as well. But then Aaron went over and he did some executive work on all of them, because I wanted it to have a cohesive feeling to it. You know what I mean? Because it's an album, I didn't want it to feel paced together. So at the end of the day, there were, I think, 5 producers involved then. So like us who did the beats, and then Aaron went over and did executive work on all of it. And he wouldn't even necessarily... some he changed more than others, and some he would just add like another synth doing the same melody. But I don't know, it was good. It gave it all a cohesive sound, and he's just absolutely amazing. So I give a lot of props to him.
Production quality is really great.
Thanks.
All of the
that's all him, man. He's
is pretty good.
Yeah, he's definitely got to be one of the biggest assets I have. I know of. I have. You know, for that album. You know, people talk about, oh man, great work on that album, and I'm like, man, tell Aaron that because he, you know, he made it sound like gold. You know.
Yeah.
And I went and met him without Brandon. Which when we get to the songs, I'll talk about a little more of the production process and stuff. And,
so one thing I wanted to talk to you about is, you can kind of get into this flow state and do freestyle, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's something that I really respect rappers for, if they can freestyle. Like being a written rapper is totally fine and good. There are plenty of creative people that I'm sure only do writtens, and that's completely fine, you know. But I have a certain next level respect for people that can come off the cuff.
I hear you.
Because I've got such social anxiety. I've tried at parties before, just when I'm drunk, and I'm like, I can rap, you know, and just completely tanked, you know. Yeah. You know, you think you're creative until you're put on the spot, and if you can get past that social anxiety, I can't fathom it. So I've got so much respect if you can do that. You know?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that does fall out because I still have a lot of social anxiety, you know. To where I might, you know, be on stage and be jumping around, be super talkative to the crowd and everything. But then, you know, prior to that, like just sitting around, I might even see someone I've met once or twice, be like, hey, if you know that person, maybe just say hi. And I'm like, oh no, I'll just sit here and not talk to them, you know, because I'm just weird, man. I get socially awkward. It's socially anxious. Yeah. And as far as freestyling, especially, I have to really, even in my own home, like with my roommates who have heard me rap 100 times, like, you know, we'll be drinking and they'll put on a beat and be like, Jared, you got to rap? And I'm like, no, I can't do it right now. And I won't do it. And it seems like that happens every single time. I'm always like, nope, and I won't freestyle. And everyone else will be doing their freestyles. And then I'll come in and do just fine. And they'll be like, and they'll just be like, fuck you, Jared. Are you kidding me? Like, you do this every time. I think my buddy Ben did that. He just one time was like, all right, Jared's going to do his thing where he doesn't want to rap for like 5 minutes, and then he's going to come in and make us all look dumb. And like, I'm not trying to do that. Like, I'm genuinely anxious. I need to like
you got to kind of get into the frame of mind, I
need to get out of this rut I'm in where I'm like, dude, like, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Yeah, dude, and stuff like that gets to me. Like, if I've rapped, you know, I freestyled at a few shows where it's just like, who wants freestyle to come up, and I always do really well. And then I had one time when there was like nobody there, like it was only a crowd of like 5, and I overthought it and I kind of choked a little bit. So I was just like, because I didn't know my part was coming, and I literally couldn't get over that for like months. Like I caught myself and managed to freestyle a little bit, but for months I just beat myself up like, oh my God, I'm a garbage freestyler. I can't rap at all.
Dude, people do that in all kinds of disciplines. Like I've heard of this, and this is completely tangential, but sort of related. Bow hunters will do this where they get anxious like just one time when they're going to shoot, and it could be at a target or something like that, and some trigger just happens in their mind, and it's like they get anxiety and they can't hold the bow straight. And it like can take therapy to get over because of just one moment where you couldn't handle it, and then from that moment on they basically have to retrain themselves to
and that's kind of that wasn't even that long ago, but so it's like, oh man, I messed up my freestyle in front of this, you know, really tiny crowd, and like there was barely and like no one even brought it up, no one cared, you know, but it's still just, I think that's where it got to, where even at home, like I didn't want to rap, and I was like, no, I won't. And like now I've gotten over that. I'm kind of back to where I was, but it's just dumb. You know what I mean? Like, why am I so? Because we were talking about, you know, social anxiety, and I still just get that so much, and it's very much like if I go up to perform, I need to put it in my head like not to think about people's expectations. Like, I'm just going up here to have fun. Like, that's kind of the mindset I've gotten into, rather than like, oh, how into the crowd is it? Now it's kind of like, I don't give a fuck of the crowd. You know what I mean? Because like, you're always, you know, when you're an underground artist, not many people know you. You're always gonna have people just sitting in their chairs, and like, they might stand up for a little bit, but then you're not gonna. Rarely does it happen where it's just like, hey, no one's heard of me, but they're just gonna get hyped, and this place is gonna, you're gonna blow the roof off tonight. You know, like, no, it's very much a slow process. That reminds me of an interview I was watching with Hobson. He was talking about how, you know, he's blown up recently in recent years. And like they're talking to him, and I think he said he was like 29. He's like, man, if I went back in time and told myself at 18, like, yeah, things are gonna get going, but they're really gonna get going when you're 29, I would have been like, man, fuck that shit. I'm not gonna be until I'm an old man. Like, and that's so funny because it's so true, you know, because you know, it's all like baby steps, you know, like you always see these guys who blow up and you think like, man, like how'd they get so lucky? How'd they blow up? And you look into it and it's like, nah, man, like they've been getting no recognition for years, you know, like just doing their thing on the local circuit and like getting to know people and networking. And it's, you know, we have this expectation, I think, that as far as, you know, being rich and famous goes, or and a lot of the people that gain recognition don't even reach that, but we have this sort of expectation that it's like if you make it, it's suddenly like you just blow up and catapult into the stratosphere, and like that's very much doesn't happen very often.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's always building and being humble, and oh man, that's the worst. You see a lot of people who are not humble, you know. Feel like my stuff's good, like why are people digging it? And it's like, man, it's take some time. Like nobody knows who you are, you know. like people don't. I don't have the, you know, much of a following as it is right now, but I don't ever, you know, try to fall in the rut of like, man, I suck. Like nobody likes me. Like this is because I'm not good. And it's like, no, man, it's just because not enough people have heard me, you know. So like, I haven't had a chance to resonate with who I'm gonna resonate with, and that's always the case. Like you might be really, really talented, but if someone listening to you like can't relate to what you're talking about or like doesn't vibe with your music, they're just not gonna like it. Doesn't matter how good it is.
Right.
You know,
it's all about finding your target audience.
Yeah. So networking and just communicating, that's a lot of the battle, and that's really why I think this endeavor has been more successful than past ones, just because Brandon, you know, has been in the scene for a while and networks and has connections to actually make shows, you know, and give me that support. And yeah, he's definitely supported me more than, you know, anyone in the world for sure. He just really puts me out there and, you know, hypes me up, and it means a lot just to have someone who's going to give you that exposure, you know. And I mean, and it ultimately falls down to me. I never, you know, I tell them all the time, like, man, you're doing as much as you can. Like, don't ever feel like you're letting me down if there's not a good turnout or anything. Like, the fact that you're doing anything at all means a lot to me. Because I mean, especially with me, like, I'm so, like I said, with being socially anxious and, like, not always being outgoing, I'm not the best at the networking thing. And I'll try to be good at it. Like, like, man, I'm going to go to a local show, and, like, I'll go to a local show and I'll send up, you know, like saying hi to someone, and that's it. And I'll like leave. Like, dang it, I was supposed to network, man. Like, what was that, you know?
Yeah.
But
no, I just from being friends with Brandon for a little bit on Facebook, I've noticed that he is pretty good at the whole networking thing, and he's not like overbearing with it. Like a lot of people are super masturbatory with their promotion. But he does it very tastefully. Like there is a certain art to social media networking.
Oh yeah, man. You see that with artists all the time.
Yeah, and you stop following them because it's just annoying.
They hype it up so much. That's the worst too, when you got this underground artist who puts off an aura of like, I'm a celebrity. It's like, you're not a celebrity.
They're trying to will it into existence.
They are. They're
to
trying
their benefit.
And I get that, but no. And Brandon, you know, he's so positive. Yeah. And he's very humble. Do you know what I mean? Like he's never, you know, like he'll hype up people, but he's never like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm trying to get at. He's just never like, man, we're the dopest fucking crew, you know? And like, like everyone else sucks. Like, come out and support. And like, he doesn't get pissed off if people don't come out, you know? Like, it's just very much like, hey guys, I got this thing going. I'd really appreciate it. You know, like they're all really talented, you know, and he's just very, like I said, he's very humble, very up to, and I think that means more than anything, you know, because like networking, like I could go out and talk to all sorts of people, but if I'm an ass, like no one, it doesn't matter how much I network. Whereas, someone like Brandon, who's just good natured, and humble and gets along with people, you're gonna remember that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I met that guy who runs Nice Guy Entertainment. He's actually a really nice guy, and he's
Yeah. Lives
Nah.
up to the name.
yeah, lives up to the name. Oh yeah, for sure, lives up to the name.
But yeah, man, let's get into the music. I really like your sound. You stuck out the most when I reached out to Brandon through Ewan.
Okay.
And yeah, your stuff kind of stuck out the most. And this track that you just came out with, I think, right? I'm Sold.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really into that. Good social commentary. I'm assuming it has to do with light of recent current events. Maybe a little bit.
Not really.
Oh, okay.
It's I wrote
See,
that.
and that's good storytelling. If you can relate to it.
That was supposed to be on Gemini Cities. So I actually had that written before Gemini Cities even came out, which was not this previous October, but before that. So that song, it only came out a couple of months ago, but it's like over a year old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's weird the way that happens with songs.
Yeah.
To where your new songs that come out, by the time it's new to everyone else, you've heard it for months and months now. You're
Right.
like, okay, this has just been done, and now it's being released. But that was supposed to be on Gemini Cities, and the due date we set was coming up really quick. And in studio, Aaron was like, we might have to cut this song. And I'm like, oh man, are you kidding me? Cut it. And it's like, it just doesn't, it wasn't done enough, number one. And it just didn't mesh with all the other tracks on Gemini Cities. Whereas Gemini Cities is a very personal album. It's very much me talking about myself and my internal struggles. So it's like you have all these tracks talking about self-doubt and confidence and anxiety and things like that. And then you have I'm Sold suddenly, which is it's all outward. It's talking about materialism and commercialism and, media distractions and things like that, So it was a lot different. And I remember I was bummed taking off, but I'm ultimately glad we did, because it would have been it kind of would have stuck out like a sore thumb on that album. I feel like
I can see that now that you say that.
Yeah, but Aaron did his magic on it. Did a lot of he did his executive production, just layered some meteor bass lines and stuff over it, and or synth sounds. Just basically kind of mirrored what was already there, but just way better sound quality. And then I had my buddy Nick, DJ Nick Twists. He did some scratching and cutting on that track as well.
Yeah.
Which that none of that would have ever been there if we had released it on Gemini Cities. So I'm glad for that. And
Sure.
Yeah, I remember me and Aaron just hunting for samples. What is he even gonna scratch? And we just got some infomercial stuff to put over it, and I was really happy with it the way it turned out. No, but it's not based on recent events, but it's so relevant.
It's
Do you know what I mean? It's wow, how could this come out now before a lot of that stuff?
Yeah, and there's this line that I really liked. Fortune and fame, that's been spinning in my brain ever since a broken kid saw it in the television frame. That sort of captures this idea that I'm really critical of, where people more get behind cults of personality rather than ideas or the actions of said person.
Yeah.
So I that line kind of resonated with me, and to again in recent events is certainly applicable.
Yeah, and I'm glad you like that line, because to me, and with the song, it's I didn't want to come off as too preachy. These are the opinions you should have.
Sure.
This is the political agenda I'm pushing. It was more just an observation of kind of the world I grew up in, because that's what it's like. It starts when you're a kid, you see it on the television, it's oh, you be rich, be famous, these are what's important, material possessions, and even getting women, let's objectify, let's collect, but it's all about just this idea of materialism and how much you can gather and church, and a lot of these things you're told are important from when you're a little kid aren't important at all. We get so focused on these trivial things, and it's just I don't know. I just feel our priorities get really mixed up, and you don't learn it until it's kind of too late,
Right.
Until you're older.
Yeah, you ignore all those cliches like the best things in life are free. And then once you get to about the age that we are, you're 27 likewise as I am. And only now am I actually able to fully grasp what that actually means, in that the intangible things in life really are much more important than how nice of a vehicle you have or how big of a house you have or anything like that.
Yeah, and very much everything I talk about in the song is just sort of being distracted, I guess, because it comes down to like I'm sold, which is there's sort of like two meanings there. It's kind of like your attention's been bought and paid for, like, oh, look over here, look at the bright shiny thing you want to buy, like, so there's that, like the whole being distracted thing, and then the idea of just people being capital, sort of. Do you know what I mean? Like how much money can we wring out of somebody, at any cost? So there's that aspect to it as well, especially with I talk about, wars abroad a little bit in it, and that kind of comes from like there's all this materialism, like, okay, we're going out and we're buying all these things and we're paying all these taxes on them, and these are being used to build bombs and drop overseas, and then corporations are profiteering from like rebuilding there as well, so it all falls down to just sort of like capitalist materialist agenda too, which is, I don't know, it's just very strange, how it's all so interconnected, because you think of like this rampant advertising on television and then like wars abroad, and you're like, those seem like they're so separate, but it all comes kind of back together when you start to pay attention to it. And as I said, I didn't want to be too preachy in the song. It was more kind of just about what I've observed, and what I've seen throughout people, at least in my generation, is that there's this overwhelming just feeling everyone has that we are that things are bought and paid for as far as democracy goes. And like everyone, like across the board, everyone says, like, oh, TV is so full of crap, like it's all bull crap, and like everyone think, politicians are paid for, and like this and that, and like everyone has this huge sort of like we all sort of know implicitly that money talks, and like money's more important than people, but we all sort of quietly accept it too. You know what I mean? Like we're not consciously thinking about it.
Right.
It's like, and I feel like a lot of people, and maybe it's just because, like we're reaching this age, like, because when you're a kid, you don't think about stuff outside of your own life, really.
$40 value for just $19.99.
Yo, cup half empty, cup half full. Fill that shit up and I'm still gonna pull for the fortune and fame that's been spinning in my brain since a little broken kid saw it in the television frame. World's blowing up, at least that's what they say. Feels like the end of days and they wonder why we fade. People drinking, smoking, rolling, looking like a motorcade, going hard like pavement. We're just trying to get laid. Just like a match, you can burn up a catch on the fact that most mind that's not paid. Rich chick digit, we wanna get with it, but we can't get with it, so we just get placed. Big dreams, Freddy Krueger came and ripped them out of me. Life's like a nightmare, I fuck with the zombies. Undead army, hungry for some brain. Loud ass zombie nation, but this ain't a soccer game. Do the dead shuffle and hit the deck and spin that record around my neck. Cause I'm sold, I'm sold. You don't have to ask cause I'm sold. I'm sold, I'm sold. No one's gonna try for the sacrifice, just leave me drive to the prices right, I'm sold.
$19.99.
Getting freaky with the television. Bad touch screen, feeling high off the definition. I'm switching from channel to channel, and every station tests my patience, it gets harder to handle. What do I need to get some fortune and fame? I'm just digging through my pockets looking for some chump change, so this chump can change or forget about the danger. They're gonna come blow Jesus out the manger. So we party cause we're all about that freedom, free to pick out which appliance will supply all the heathens to drop a bomb overseas and hope that nobody sees it. Should be watching the watchers, but where does watching some cleavage? TV's bleeding noise, blood and bullets in the static engine. Now I need a crutch, looking for a bad habit. Automatic state of mind, faded even when I'm sober. Put to sleep by all the sheep, wake me up when I'm sold. I'm sold. You don't have to ask, cause I'm sold. I'm sold. I'm sold. No one's going twice for the sacrifices. Bleed me dry till the price is right. I'm sold. Going once, going twice. If you didn't hear it, we can put it in some flashing lights. You do this all night, you do this all day. Everybody now just look this way. Don't even turn and ask what's that. That's just flesh wound. Do the care about that. I'm sold.
The incredible price of only $19.95. The incredible.
So the next song that you had, and I watched the video to this, and I got a kick out of it. Show 'em up.
I'm glad.
I like that, man.
I'm glad you got a kick out of it.
Yeah.
The story behind that is that actually was one of the off tracks that I thought like, oh man, this is gonna be a filler track. Like people aren't gonna like really care. And then after it was done and recorded, it's kind of like, whoa, that turned out way cooler than I thought it would. And that song, we finished recording that, and it was getting closer to the album drop date, like a month prior. And they're like, we got to do a promo video for this, this album. And I had just dropped Showing 'Em Up because we had been recording a lot of tracks, but it was like, man, we got to drop another track or something. Like, it's been too long since I've dropped a track. And I ended up dropping that. And Brandon was like, oh, should we just do a video for Showing 'Em Up because you just dropped that? I'm like, a video? Like, I don't even know what I would do for a video. It's like, I'll talk to my buddy Josh and we'll figure it out and get a video. And they sent me the idea for the video, and I hated it. At first I did. They're like, oh, well, you're going to be this quiet busboy who was kind of like pining after this girl, and the guy she's with is a dick, and like you're going to have this daydream where you show him up and get her, and at the end it's all a daydream. And I'm thinking like, that sounds lame.
Sounds like a friend zone story.
Yeah,
or something.
I was like, because a lot of that was that album was about becoming secure and getting over all these social cues that tell you you're not good enough. So to me, I'm like, I don't want to come across as like, oh, I'm desperate and don't, because a lot of songs were more about like realizing, oh, I might not have all these nice things or like get all the girls, but like that shit doesn't matter. Like you learn to care about it less as you get older.
Oh yeah.
You're like, these things have no input on like my value as a person at all.
Yeah.
So like to me, it was like, oh man, I don't want to come across as like this. You know what I mean? Like this kind of sad, pining individual.
Right.
But the more I thought about it, the more I liked it, because I'm like, we could do this as sort of like a more tongue-in-cheek, satirical type thing. And they were like, well, that's what we meant all along. It was never meant to be serious video. And then I'm like, okay, because when they had sent it to me, I thought it was like a serious video. Like this could be super serious. And I'm like, no.
That's what I took away from it.
Yeah.
In the end product, certainly.
But then, so then I was like, okay, this will be good if we do it tongue in cheek. So we basically threw that video together. It's like, we decided we were going to record it. We set a date like a week from then or something. And then we found a place to shoot it. We went in and we shot it. And like I said,
what bar is that?
That's how do you say it again? It's like, is it Cladagans? Like in Maple Grove? It's an Irish bar.
Oh, okay.
People are laughing around like, oh my God, he can't say that bar name. But I don't remember what it's called.
I just didn't know if it was something in downtown
we shot it,
or something.
But I was like, okay, like we'll do this, but it has to be cheesy. And I whipped up this script sort of. And I remember the one shot where I pretty much just let Brandon and Josh run the show for shooting that. But the one thing I was really adamant about, I'm like, no, there needs to be this shot of me catching the punch and looking at the camera and saying, showing them up. And they're like, oh, okay, I guess we could try to shoot. I'm like, no, we're shooting it. Like, it's going to happen. Like, and we did it until I got it to the point I liked it. And everyone loves that scene.
Yeah. And you judo chop him.
I judo chop him, yeah. But no, the whole video is great. So, like, props to props to everyone who worked on the video. Like, the quality was honestly amazing for the amount of time we had given. It was like, do we really just kind of like whip together this video? You know, like, it actually turned out pretty well. Ewan said it reminded him of like a 90s music video.
Yeah.
it's like something.
I can see that.
He's like, it's like something you'd see in the 90s.
Yeah.
No, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Like I said, once I learned kind of what the vibe was, like, okay, this is a fun thing. It's not so much serious.
Right.
And I got to judo chop somebody. Then I got to chop my buddy Doug as well. It was funny because he kept, like, there's this scene where I chop him and then he falls into the bar or whatever nearby. He just kind of falls down. And we had to do that shot like a dozen times. So we just sat there filming while he like basically like fell and bashed his head into the wall. He would just run up and do that over and over. Like, just falling into this. And we had to, me and Brandon actually did a blooper reel that you can see.
Oh, okay.
That too. And we just cut together all the impacts happening really quickly. And it's pretty funny.
Great.
And then as far as that song goes, I guess you should talk about the song itself. Well, I feel like the song's pretty self-explanatory. It's about when you're young, like you said, you just kind of compare yourself to everyone else, and you think like, oh, how can I get like, the successful people and the cool people? And at a certain point, you're like, man, it doesn't matter. Like, fuck those people. Like, you just gotta do your own thing, and persevere, and and that's the thing too. A lot of the people that I don't know. I feel like a lot of people who need to really boast and have big egos and act like they're hot shit are actually really insecure. So the best thing you could actually do to kind of stick it to those people that you're quote unquote not as good as is just to be confident in yourself. Mm-hmm. Be like, you know what? I don't have any of these things you have, but it doesn't matter because I'm still more secure than you. I'm still happier than you, and that's kind of what I was going for, I guess.
It's a dark and foggy night. Chilling at the Yes Club, got done smoking a cigarette, strolled back up inside. So this quiet kid from the Sticks on stage, he just started showing him up, man. I couldn't even believe it. Used to be quiet, my soul didn't buy it. My heart was reliant on serving the peace. No need to get noticed, cause out in this ocean, the constant commotion draws sharks from the deep. I was a kid, staying up late, getting stoned with the loners. We sit and relate about having no place, dreading the light, cause light is the prey of the villainous night. This is me now, growing up. This is me now, showing them up. This is me now, blowing up. Don't give a fuck with the grins of these villains. Just give it a minute, my style will be killing them. I'm showing them up. If they don't like it, I'm turning it up. Showing them up. If they were sleeping, they're saying what's up. Don't give a fuck with the grins of these villains. Just give it a minute, my style will be killing them. I'm showing them up. Showing them up. Life is a show for driving me mad. Open my fist and the keys in my hand, and I'm sitting around with my feet on the ground. There's a fight for success and it's taking off now. I got the ticket, I got it booked. Look at me, that's where they're throwing the book. Cause I am the best and good things are bad. Made me illegal before I've been had. I'm not a fad, I'm not a trend. I'm going up, don't even pretend. Lady luck, we're at it again. She's shooting me down, I'm fucking your friend. Time and space drew me together. The space is just right, so what time could be better? Fulfilling our runes and the sign of that boom. I'm going beast forever. This is me now, growing up. This is me now, showing them up. This is me now, blowing up. Don't give a fuck with the grins of these villains. Just give it a minute, my style will be killing them. I'm showing them up. If they don't like it, I'm turning it up. Showing them up. If they were sleeping, they're saying what's up. Don't give a fuck with the grins of these villains. Just give it a minute, my style will be killing them. I'm showing them up. Showing them up.
So, and then the last track that you got is We Can Do Anything. And I really like this beat that you got going. It kind of, the thing that comes to mind, and this is going to sound really obscure, but it reminds me of like the music in Bomberman.
I've never seen that.
And from N64 and this like jet ski game that I had, because they always played this like kind of R&B, like 90s R&B kind of music in some of those N64 games. And that's totally like the retro feel that I get from that beat in that song. So
Cool.
yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah, that's actually the first track I recorded with Nice Guy Entertainment.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Brandon had all these beats he had worked on that no one had really like shown interest in, and then I looked through the beats that he had, and then that one was the one I was most set on. Like, oh man, I need this beat. It's amazing. And he's like, I'm glad because nobody else has like showed interest in it. I'm like, I don't know why, because it's super just old school and soulful and like kind of what I was going for, a little funky. And yeah, Aaron. I was recording it. We had our first Nice Guy meeting at IPR, and after the meeting, everyone left, and we were in like Studio 2, I think it was. And like, do you just want to record that song? Do you know it? Do you have it down? I was like, yeah, I can do it. And I went in there, and Aaron was present. You know, it was the first time I met Aaron, and Brandon was recording me doing this track, and we went through and we tracked it all. And afterward, I think it was like a day later, Brandon hit me like, hey, Aaron actually wanted to do some extra work on that track and maybe record it again. And it's like, okay, I guess you know, we can do that, that's fine. And Aaron initially just wanted to work on the beat, and he did all this work on the beat and actually slowed the tempo down, so that beat used to be a little quicker, a little faster.
Oh, okay.
He slowed the tempo down a lot, and just me and Brandon were both blown away, like, oh my gosh. And it's like, well, now I have to re-record it because the BPM is different, you know. And I went in and recorded it again with Aaron, and then I just ended up doing all my recording with him. Like, I ended up doing the whole album. And that was before there was even an album planned.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but, you know, when it came down, it was like, you want to put that on the album? I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm putting that on the album. You know, just because I feel like that album is all about duality.
Yeah.
And that was very much one of the lighter tracks. So I feel like it wouldn't have been as balanced without it.
Sure.
And
I picked up that common theme in that.
Yeah. And I very much wanted to do like it was the first song I was recording with them, so I really wanted to do like a feel good, you know, like it says it, like We Can Do Anything. It's very much like a uplifting, positive vibe type song. Mm-hmm. Whereas I didn't want to start off by just, you know, a lot of hip hop artists, it's like, this is how good I am and this is why I'm better than you. And I didn't want to start off on that note. I wanted to start off on I'm confident in myself, and this is why you should be too. You know, so it's like I'm lifting myself up to lift others up, not to lift myself above others, I guess, is sort of what I was trying to do. And then it was just, you know, just kind of a feel good, like late 80s type track. Yeah. It's so cliched, like oh, music's going, we're feeling good type stuff, you know. And, but no, I really like that track as well. I was happy with it.
Yeah, I wish that hip hop would kind of go back more to that posy kind of attitude, because that's like the Advent Grandmaster Flash and Dr. Dre, or not Dr. Dre, Run DMC and all that. Yeah, they were all about like uplifting the ghettoized communities and stuff and giving them something hopeful. Yeah, and now it's just turned into this you know, pissing match.
This pissing match, yeah, man, exactly. And I had just joined up with Nice Guy Entertainment, and I remember going to Soundset for the first time, and I'd never been there. And I went around, and I saw all these big acts, you know, and I went up to the side stage, and it was Psalm 1 and Oh Yeah, and it was Psalm 1 just performing with like a live funk band, and it was super positive and super uplifting. And, you know, and she was saying, like, hate money and stuff. And I was just like, I'm like, this is awesome. You know, like, this is like what I want to do. This is the scene I want to get into. And I went to a lot of underground shows, you know, at Honey and Poorhouse and stuff like that. And the amount of talent in Minneapolis is just amazing.
Yeah.
The hip hop scene, and it's so good. And people say like, "Oh man, I wish they made hip hop like they used to." And it's like, man, they do.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of hip hop
Yeah,
like
so
that.
much organic hip hop too, like
Yeah.
where they've actually got a band up there. Atmosphere is sort of the benchmark for that too.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, they just don't get the exposure
Yeah.
they need, you know. So I guess
They're certainly sustained by the local community
Yeah.
at least.
Uh-huh.
At least we're keeping them alive, you know, or at least that
yeah,
phenomenon alive.
And you know, and you very much, because it is so local, you know, you become friends with a lot of those artists and stuff like that. And all the artists I've collaborated are just people I've met and be like, hey, I really like your music. I like your music too. And we start chatting, and then it's like, let's make a song, you know.
Volumes maxing, I'm just relaxing, whipping out melodies, nobody telling me how to behave in a formidable way, cause I got style for days, gonna rock this bad gate bam, pow, right in the kiss, got top-notch flow, can't fuck with this, don't blink your eyes or you're bound to miss, one step in the dance of the man getting jiggy with it, why is it that the floor is dead, till I come on the scene and decide the trend, you should meet my friends, we all bust a move, hop like bricks, spitting flashing mushrooms, good or bad times, we got some backs, real friends don't fake, but know how to act. You can search the world, can't top our show. Go ahead, man, spin the globe. And jump with the rhythm, drop with the bass. Sweet melodies, come and get your taste. There's still memories that we need to make. We can do anything. The day is done, but the night is young. Guess that means we gotta raise the sun. Still a whole lot of good things to come. We can do anything. We can do anything. Shatter expectations like glass when I sign my name on the seismograph. 2JD on the Richter scale up these mountainsides like I got a swift ride. No disguise in my mind's intent to carve my own path through this labyrinth. The tension's dense in this residence, but I make it cover my residence. Kick all the folks that are on the fence to the side with the rhymes that are so relentlessly chill. There's still time to kill, but I would rather thrill with these rhymes I spill on a canvas. Don't mind the madness once you let me in. I'm about to yang it. Put your hands in the air and catch a flight. Got no stress left cause we feeling alright. Just jump with the rhythm, drop with the bass. Sweet melodies, come and get your taste. There's still memories that we need to make. We can do anything. The day is done, but the night is young. Guess that means we gotta raise the sun. Still a whole lot of good things to come. We can do anything. Drink so crisp, girls like that, rhymes like this. Ride with the vibe that I'm feeling today. Just gotta go with it cause it's going away. Chilling like a villain with these verses that I'm killing. Could've sworn it's been a million but I've really lost count. That's besides the point, cause it's time to bounce. I don't mean out the door, I mean the opposite of sitting down. Don't be afraid to act a little foolish. Haters seem ghoulish but they ain't moving. Shit, they ain't kings, they ain't rooks or pawns. And they ain't set it off yet, let them see who's got it going on. The night is young so get out your seat. Jump with the rhythm and run with the beat. Stop, drop, hop with the bass and repeat. We going A to Y, no cease, no sleep. Just jump with the rhythm, drop with the bass. Sweet melodies, come and get your taste. There's still memories that we need to make. We can do anything. The day is done, but the night is young. Guess that means we gotta raise the sun. Still a whole lot of good things to come. We can do anything.
We're gonna close out here. The question I like to end with is, do you remember a moment in time when you were a child when you realized your own mortality?
This is gonna be like morbid.
Oh, that's
one
totally what I'm going for.
The one that immediately pops into my mind is I got home and actually I was older than this. You know, I was actually probably in my mid to late teens, which is weird. You would think this is something, I'm sure there was an older instance, but I can't think of another. The one that jumps to my mind is just kind of, I came home and I found out our dog had died. And I was like, oh, that was too bad. I'd had dogs die before, but they were going to bury it out in the woods. And my dad was like, do you want to see him before we bury him? And I'm like, okay, I'll see him. And I went over to the dog, you know, of mine. and I expected it to be like looking like he was sleeping, you know. And when I came up, it was just he was stiff and the eyes were half open, and it's like there was nothing inside of him.
Yeah.
And it was so like surreal, you know. It was
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, you know, because like you always see that in movies, like, you know, someone dies and their eyes are closed, and like I'd been to funerals of like elderly relatives that I wasn't super close with, you know. And you know, you see them in the casket, arms folded up, like they've been prepared to be at a funeral. But this is the first time it's like I've seen, and even though it's a dog, it's like this was a family member, you know.
Yeah,
It's like this
absolutely.
is something, you know, this is, you know, I want to say someone, but that sounds weird. And something sounds not appropriate. Anyway, this dog that I've been attached to, you know, and had emotional connection with, to see it with like nothing inside its face, its
Yeah.
eyes, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's like the eyes were like half open and it was stiff. And I just remember it being, I don't know, it's just weird.
Like it just hit you.
Like I knew it was dead, but it was like, oh, like, you know, it's just, he's dead, you know? It's
Right.
just,
So did you grow up in a Christian household, or
yeah, I did.
so do you think that has maybe something to do with it when you actually maybe fully realize that? you know,
Well, I grew up in a Christian household, and I went to Sunday school and church, and I got confirmed and all this stuff. And you know, but
so you were Lutheran?
I was Lutheran, yeah. But I kind of grew out of that later on, I guess, as a teenager. And the instance I'm talking about was actually after I'd gotten less religious.
Oh, okay.
But I'd always, even after I got less religious, I was always agnostic, because I was never like, oh, there's no, you know. I always thought there was sort of a, you know, one of those people who's like, oh, there's something, but I don't know what it is, you know, like that kind of thing. And I don't know. I guess I've really gotten to the point where I can, you know, I can discuss a lot of those things, but I really just think about it less, I feel like. You know, whereas when I initially got less religious, it was sort of like this, well, I had these really complex answers for what I thought was out there. And now it's really gotten to the point where it's like, I don't know, you know, like I'm going to focus on me and like living the best life I can with what I know I have, you know, and I still wouldn't say I'm completely atheist, but, you know, some people might say I am, you know, where it's like, oh, you don't have a certain anything you worship, but
More a-religious than
or-
atheist?
yeah,
You
more
think?
more a-religious or more universalist than anything, because
Sure.
I feel like humanists and all religions sort of pursue the same goals, and they have many of the same core beliefs, but they get so hung up on semantics and these little rules and these little interpretations, and it's like they create this ocean out of a puddle,
Yeah.
you know, where it's, you know, it's like, and that's the same goes for countries and cultures and anything. Like, we all want the same things as human beings, you know, which is just to be happy and to be content and to live. And, you know, we all have these implicit drives, I feel like, to be the best people we can. Yeah, and then as soon as you get all these, you know, like I said, descriptions and ideas, as soon as you get into the analytical aspect of it, like, you know, like, just as I'm just talking in circles now, I feel like, but it's not until you get into that people are really divided,
Yeah.
you know.
Arbitrarily, too, I
don't
like.
feel like, yeah, arbitrarily, you know, like there's so much division on so many levels, and it's all phenomena that we have created, you know, as far as, like I said, whether it be borders or class or, you know, anything, it's just all sort of been driven down, you know. And like, and, you know, anything you talk about, like even when it comes to like race, you know, and racism's very, very real and something we have to deal with, but when it comes down to it, you know, that's just skin pigment, you know, but we've attached so much to it that now racism is like this monster it's
Yeah.
become. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not being one of those people who says, "Oh, it's just an invention of the media." Like that's stupid. Like I don't believe that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that at the beginning of the day, we're all human beings, but then we as a society over, a millennia have absolutely divided ourselves by culture and race, and we've put ourselves into these hierarchies, and the key to breaking down these hierarchies of class and race and things are just to be aware, like what makes me think I'm better than someone who's poor,
right?
Or like what makes me think I'm better than someone who's black,
yeah.
Or what makes me think I'm better. And a lot of people, they just implicitly feel things, but they don't think about what's triggering it.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to what I was saying about I'm sold, it's just like you see this image on the television and it makes you feel needy or worthless or unsafe or just anything. And you don't stop and go, why am I feeling that way? Like what's the source? What's the root of this?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I said, everything is so streamlined. We don't confide in people anymore. We see people, at social gatherings, and it's interesting to think about. It's like the only time for a lot of people, it's like the one time you do go out and socialize is when you're all trying to forget about your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you're all in a social place, and this is finally it. Like, oh, I'm finally around people, and we finally have this chance to connect, and all we want to do is just dumb down our brain with alcohol and just forget and
mm-hmm.
not connect. Do you know what I mean? So it's
right.
like all these instances we get to connect with each other, we instead spend trying to be distant.
Yeah.
And it's not to say I don't do that. Like I go out and party on the weekends and do this, but you get what I'm saying? It's kind of like you put a mask on and you go to work.
Yeah.
And you do all your bullshit.
I totally.
And then you go home, and then you go out into the social environment, and you put another mask on.
Yeah.
And you never, like you're acting based on all these cues and
yeah.
all these implicit things deep in your brain that are, causing you to behave a certain way. And I feel like the main point I'm getting at is humans really live on autopilot. You know what I mean? We become so streamlined so quick that I really very much feel like we go through day to day just on autopilot and not being aware of the things like what gives me my fears, what gives me my desires, what gives me my prejudice, and people you very much don't think about that. And I feel like the first step to kind of bridging the gap and becoming connected as human beings again is just listening to each other. And I'm going to bring up another cliche quote is the main problem with communication these days is people don't listen to listen, they listen to reply. And I very much feel like that's the case.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's about it. All I have to say about it. I don't know how we got there from a dog dying, but
that's
somehow.
You know what, man? Whenever I ask that question, it can go in any number of directions,
Yeah.
Because there's so much that motivates us surrounding the idea of death, because we do anything to escape that nothingness, right? I mean,
yeah.
That's why I create things.
So
that's why
we want to be the best person we can with the life we're given, and we have so many contrasting ideas of what makes a good life.
Mm-hmm.
What makes a good person.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, we should probably get out of here.
Yeah, probably.
All right, man. Would you like to plug anything? Your online presence, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to www.niceguycrew.com. That's the Nice Guy Entertainment website where you can get everything. You can hit me up on SoundCloud, www.soundcloud.com/2JD. And then you can go to www.facebook.com/2JDmusic because somebody else is using 2JD. And as far as I can tell, they don't do anything. So it's kind of like, just close it, man. Come on.
Yeah.
They're listening now like, fuck that guy. I got that. It's my Facebook page. I got it first,
All right.
Yep. And that's about it.
Right on. All right. Well, thanks for taking the time and sitting down with me, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I feel very blessed to have this platform to reach out to you, and let me tell you why. From a young age, I was always very interested in doing radio, but for whatever reason, whether it be my neuroses or just being jaded about how radio is typically ran, I didn't want to pursue it as a career. However, technology has afforded me this small corner of the internet where I can broadcast to you, and I can't express enough how humbled I feel to have built this program and have you here alongside me as we take this trip through the minds of the guests and in some way tap into something that is often not explored, something deep inside of these people that inform this music that they create. So we usually just kind of take in music at its face value, and it makes us feel a certain way and we connect with the stories, I'm sure, but we hardly get the full story behind these people and exactly who they are. Or at least not until they get to be rather famous and people like Rolling Stone and MTV are interviewing them. Or at least it used to be MTV. When I was a kid, music television still had something to do with music. But anyways, I really thank you for being here with me today. I honestly do appreciate it. And please share this with someone in your life who could use an hour of catharsis and exploration of the human spirit as it relates to music in their life. The music you're hearing behind me is someone that you may have heard in my mission statement episode back at the launch of my podcast, Monster Rally. I just launched my website this past week, so you can find show notes for this episode and find more from Monster Rally and 2JD at subversionwebcast.com/2JD. All right, until next week, I'm signing off. Take care of yourself out there, everybody.